Hello, this is Stormtrooper 1. In case you were just way too busy to listen to our last show, this is what you missed.
But other than that, we really don't know a whole lot about him.
We know that he wears the same clothing size as Han Solo.
Yeah, we know that they have the same size. They wear the same 32 Slim. But we don't know anything else other than that. I wonder if Lando wore his underwear, too. You know, when he was at the end of Empire Strikes Back, he's like, man, these underwear look pretty good, too. They fit.
How about that? Hey, Chewie, do you think he'd mind? No, you don't mind either? Okay, I'm going to wear his clothes.
Lando might have needed a little more dick room, though. I don't want to I don't want to feed into that cliche, but at the same time, I want to feed into that cliche.
Well, that's why, we only saw him from the waist up. He probably wasn't wearing any pants.
That's probably what he was talking about when he was sitting in the Millennium Falcon. So they told me they fixed it.
Warning from the Bacta tank contains adult language and discussions. If you're easily offended, do not continue.
We would be honored if you would join us.
How are you feeling? Your latest workups on your condition indicate that all damage has been reversed. Recovery is total. I believe you have been quite fortunate. No further thanks are necessary, Commander, but you are most welcome. It is my function and pleasure as a medical droid to help and heal human beings.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
All right, hello everybody. Welcome to Star Wars from the Bacta Tank. If you miss any part of this show, you can always find us on Stitcher and iTunes. Just search Star Wars from the Bacta Tank. Leave us reviews. Give us a 5-star rating. And that will help us grow, help our show continue to grow. I want to thank everybody for listening today. This is going to be a I don't know if this is going to be a regular size program. We may only be here for 25, 30 minutes and then take off. We're not sure yet. We just had another show a couple days ago, and a lot of news surfaced because of E3 and the information that was dropped on us for the new Star Wars Battlefront II. Now, typically, I don't like to do shows that start on video games, because as we know, not every Star Wars fan gravitates to the video game world. In fact, probably a very small fraction of them really do. However, this is something a little different in regards to video games. Not only has there been news and information released on Star Wars Battlefront 2, but there has been ancillary books that have been also announced alongside the Battlefront 2 release. Lots of things that are going to be canon related. New stories, David. New stories.
This is what we all wanted when we first got Battlefront 1, but never got it. So now EA's come out and swung for the fences.
Yeah, well, they have to. And this is something we've said on the show time and time again with video games and Star Wars. The only failure I would say Lucasfilm has had since the buyout from Disney is Battlefront.
Yes.
And not that it isn't beautiful. It's a gorgeous looking game. And for the first hour, it's great. And then after that, you shrug and say, okay, well, what else do I do?
What else do I do?
There's literally nothing to do except shoot people, and that's it. There's no progression necessarily. It's a game that failed, and it sucks because there was so much hype on it. So many people dumped tons of money on the early releases and the pre-releases so they can get extra goodies, and the game ultimately didn't really satisfy anybody.
People were upset that they spent like $100 on the pre-orders, and essentially what we got with Battlefront was basically a $40, $60 game, and that was it.
Yeah. It didn't really do anything.
It didn't do anything.
It really didn't do anything for anyone, especially when you look at the video games for Star Wars, and you have to look at what has come before. What came before Battlefront? Well, you have tons of other video games that have usually, for the most part, with the major releases, have expanded the story. If you look at the Old Republic, that was one of the bigger games leading into the Disney buyout.
Yep.
It did great for the lore of the Sith.
Of the lore of the Sith, yeah.
And the Old Republic. You look at the Boba Fett title for PlayStation. Did a lot for Jango Fett. Did a lot for Jango Fett's story and filled in some blanks in between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. And throw me any title, any Star Wars title, and it usually does something for the story. And if not something for a story, it does something for the actual movie that it is parodying, or I want to say, what would be the right word for it? Not parroting, but copying. Like if you have you have the episode 4 game, you have the episode 5 game from the old NES.
Yeah.
There's always been something that kept you invested, not just in the gameplay, but also the story. And this is an era of video games now. This new era of video games that we are in now, the players don't want non-stories. In fact, that's what's really catapulted the video game into new heights, the video game industry into new heights, is the fact that there is very rich storytelling now married to the video gameplay.
Yeah, when you release a game that only a first-person shooter that you only have multiplayer, there's nothing really else to it. Just like what you said, 1 hour in and you're like going, okay, well, is there anything else I can do? What's the substance that I got here?
Exactly. And that's something with the release from E3 just a couple days ago. They dropped the information on us about Battlefront 2, saying that gameplay has been revealed, pre-order bonuses, beta details, release date, unlockables, and everything we need to know. I'm going to go through this step by step. And the reason why I'm even getting into this at the forefront of our show is quite simple. Everything that happens in this video game will be officially canon.
Yes.
Therefore, it is owed a complete conversation. Now that it's going to be a part of canon, we have to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
The sequel to the 2015 reboot in the Star Wars Battlefront series, EA will be releasing Star Wars Battlefront II this November, shortly before the release of Star Wars The Last Jedi in December. And I watched the trailer, and it is amazing. If you have not seen it, go to RainmanDigitalMedia.com, click on this particular show's entry, and you'll be able to see the trailer. I'm going to embed it within the show itself. Releasing 2 years after the rebooted Star Wars Battlefront was launched on PS4, Xbox One, and the PC, Star Wars Battlefront 2 looks set to build on what worked well in the original game, as well as adding a brand new single-player campaign. And that right there is what got all the applause. Single-player campaign, aka story mode. The trailer that EA released for the game over the weekend of Star Wars Celebration sets the stage for the conflict. You are Iden Versio. Now, this is not necessarily new. This is from Star Wars Celebration, this particular part. An elite Imperial trooper who witnesses the destruction of the second Death Star and decides to take a stand against the rebel forces. So, number one, remembering this is canon, and now going back to what I just read, we're going to get our first, I want to say, true story development on the aftermath of Return of the Jedi. Yes, Chuck Wendigos, what's his name? Wendig. He did the whole Aftermath trilogy.
Yeah.
But the perspective was a little different. This is going to be a perspective that no doubt is going to explore the ramifications of the second Death Star's destruction.
It takes place right after.
Yeah.
You see it explode.
Yeah, this is going to be big for Star Wars canon. And if it's not, and they fail again, Lucasfilm, guess what's going to happen? You're not going to have another chance. Your sales are going to plummet for your next video game release. So and they knew that in order for this one to work, they were going to have to attach a canon-related story mode. Give us some story. This isn't 20 years ago. We don't want simplistic shooting. We need a story to go along with the shooting. This page will act as a hub of knowledge for Star Wars. Hold on, I'm reading actually from the website. All right, so Star Wars Battlefront 2 essential information. Release date November 17th, 2017. Price $60. Platforms PC, PS4, Xbox One. Also, it's going to be considered a shooter. Star Wars Battlefront 2 release date and price. Star Wars Battlefront 2 will be making its way to PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One on November 17th. I'm losing myself here, David. Again, we currently know that there will be at least 2 editions of the game, one standard edition and one Elite Trooper Deluxe edition. The latter of which will retail for $80. The Elite Trooper Deluxe edition will allow access to the game 3 days early, David.
Yes.
On November 14th, and will also provide unlockable weapons and equipment for the 4 main classes in the game. These being Officer, Assault, Heavy, and Specialist.
And I think the important thing about that one is it harkens back to the old Battlefront that we all grew up with in the 90s. The problem with the first Battlefront was there was no class system. So everyone was the same. Everyone that basically, when you play Battlefront, you basically had a bunch of people just running around as stormtroopers and rebel soldiers, and that was it. There was no versatility to the game or gameplay. And then when they showed the 4 classes, I got excited because it's something that they took out of the old Battlefront, which is Officer, Assault, Heavy, and Specialist. And that started getting me, when I was sitting watching the E3 thing, I was like going, okay, you took something that we all said, where the hell did this go? And they brought it back. So the importance of that now is, like, now the game plays a bit more richer. There's more depth to it.
Yeah. Now, as previously mentioned, and this is the highlight for me, the player will take on the role of Iden Versio within the single-player campaign, who is portrayed through motion capture by the very hot actress, Jania Gavankar, from True Blood and Sleepy Hollow, and she is pretty damn hot. Versio will lead Inferno Squad, and this is what's really cool. Okay, it's called Versio will lead Inferno Squad in the campaign of Star Wars Battlefront II. Fighting to avenge the Emperor, Inferno Squad is no small unit, being comprised of officers, shock troopers, and TIE fighter pilots, among others. This making sense when considering the fact that Inferno Squad will be fighting on various surfaces throughout the galaxy. Now, not only that, this video game comes with a prequel, and this is what's really interesting. They're really doing the true Star Wars Lucasfilm treatment of this video game, which is what they should have did the first time around. But you're also getting a prequel story as well, letting previous voice, the actress that plays that's doing the motion capture for the character of Iden Versio will also be reading for the audio book, because there will be a book. That's a prequel story titled Battlefront II Inferno Squad, and this book will be taking place between the events of New Hope. Inferno Squad novel covers the immediate aftermath of the events of Rogue One and A New Hope. Following the rebellion's triumph against the Death Star, the Empire is out for blood and is targeting the last remnants of the partisans in order to weaken the growing insurrection against the Empire. To do this, they enlist the newly created task force known as Inferno Squad to take down the extremists. I'm excited.
This is probably the first time I haven't gotten an audiobook in a long time. I want to pick up the Inferno Squad audiobook.
Yeah.
Because it's actually being voiced by the character in the book.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's a good move. Just it kind of it gives it a little personal touch and more a touch of realism as well.
It does.
And I'm excited. I'm really excited about this, that they're releasing an entire storyline leading up to the book that will then lead into the movies. And the fact that they're doing it from, again, the perspective of the Empire, is a nice touch. It kind of goes hand in hand with a lot of things that we're seeing within Star Wars. In years past, our perspective has been on what? Has been more or less from the idea of the Rebel Alliance, right?
Alliance, yeah.
But as we saw in Rogue One, you saw that the rebels themselves are doing questionable actions. That was made very clear at the very beginning of Rogue One when Caspian blew away another rebel because he was too loud. He was being too loud, and it ran the risk of him being caught.
Yep.
Also, if you look at the verbiage that they're using to describe this Inferno Squad novel, that the squad has been put together to battle and take down the extremists. We also saw in Rebels, Agent Callus being an Imperial agent. Not bad.
Yep.
He's a good person.
You can also question Saw Gerrera, too.
Saw Gerrera, an extremist, making poor decisions that would be a lot like what we would see classic Imperial officers make. Then, of course, in the comic book series going on right now, Screaming Citadel, we see the exact same thing happening with the questioning of ethics of Princess Leia. So that's definitely a theme that the Lucasfilm story group is working on. They're wanting people to see two different sides to war, and that everyone's ideology is very subjective.
And I don't know about you, but basically, like, even in the books, I've started noticing, after I saw the E3, I started actually doing my own Star Wars kind of like piecing together investigation, is like, I started noticing that the Star Wars story group is really pushing this thing that we've been told, like what you said, the whole story of the first six, maybe the first six movies revolve around the birth of the rebellion, and then the story of the Rebel Alliance in episodes 4, 5, and 6. This whole time, we've always been told that the Empire is evil. It's a brutal dictatorship. They're the version of the Star Wars Nazis. But nowadays, a lot of stories are being told out there how sometimes good people are in those factions. They just were born into those into that situation where they're there. You know, there were good quote unquote Nazis. You know, Schindler's List.
Down. So stupid.
You know, like Schindler's List and stuff like that. And then basically nowadays, the Star Wars story group is trying to show that the universe was so vast that basically the Empire, while the Empire was bad, there were good things that people gravitated towards the Empire because, like we've mentioned in past shows, the Empire made some people feel safe.
Right. Not everything's black and white. And that's something we actually discussed in detail on our Patreon exclusive broadcast when we were talking about the Screaming Citadel comic book series.
Yeah.
And it's definitely there. We're not just pulling things out of our ass. Lucasfilm Story Group is definitely trying to tell different stories from different perspectives. And that's reality. That's the reality of it. And I kind of like that approach to two sides to every coin. There is life isn't black and white. Life is circumstance.
Yes.
And subjective. So I think it works. And I really like that they're doing this with this story with the Inferno Squad. And it's not necessarily being told from an evil perspective, like a Sith Lord perspective.
No. It even says
regular people.
It's regular people. And the main character, Iden, she's just horrified to actually witness the destruction of the second Death Star. Now we all see the second Death Star as something evil, but Iden basically, the way the story goes is like she had friends that died there that got just vaporized.
Right. Yeah. And it's called humanizing the enemy. And I it sounds so bad, but like when you humanize the go-to enemy of the Star Wars universe, the Empire, it creates an internal conflict within the audience, within the reader, within the watcher of the movie. And when that happens, you get a lot more complex characters and a more complex story.
You get better stories, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I think this is a good call. I'm really excited to see what they do with it.
Yeah.
Next bit of news is the fact that the people are going crazy with the latest leaking of additional Battlefront 2 footage as well.
Yes.
Stuff pertaining to Rey's origin. As we know, that was a big question mark on episode 7. Who is Rey's parents? Who is she related to? And of course, these new hints are leading to nothing, no original thought.
No original thought. Just like you'd think they would.
I mean, because she's holding, I think at one point in one of the images, she's holding Anakin's lightsaber, and then another image, she's holding Obi-Wan's green lightsaber. So people are then using that to to kind of prove the point that she is related to Obi-Wan Kenobi, or that Obi-Wan Kenobi is her father, which doesn't make sense because she would be maybe 50 at this point if she was related to Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan had died 30 years ago.
And the thing is, I keep thinking about the example you said about like how Star Wars fans like on Reddit, they'll just jump on it. They'll just jump. See, this is how it works.
Yeah.
This is how it works.
It's not just Star Wars fans. It's all like internet people. It's just like, see, told you. They always go for the low hanging fruit. Yeah, the easy approach. Like, oh well, look it's obviously this. Kylo Ren is obviously Darth Vader reborn, and Snoke is obviously Mace Windu. I'm telling you, the proof is there.
The proof is there.
Look. And then they reimagine, like they take these images of Mace Windu and slowly crush his head digitally to where it looks like Snoke. I'm like, you can do that to anybody. It's proof. Look at we demorphed Mace Windu, and it looks just like Snoke with a cracked head.
And yeah, I'm reading the article that you mentioned about the leak of Rey's parentage, and I'm like going, it's a lightsaber.
Yeah, I mean, a green and blue lightsaber is not by any means a new concept.
Does that mean that basically if me and Mike wield red lightsabers, we're related?
We're gay lovers. If we both wield red lightsabers with a black hilt, we're gay lovers.
We're gay lovers.
It's obvious. It's obvious.
It's so obvious.
Yeah, dual lightsabers obviously means
that he's
dual
a homo.
partnership.
Dual partnership.
It's dual partnership, and when they co-ignite together, that means they're fucking. So stupid.
And the sad part is this is what people on Reddit think.
Yeah, because most people are stupid, David. I think that's nothing new. Most people are dumb. So the rumors are definitely increasing in terms of Rey and who she's related to. I wouldn't have a problem saying that if she's related to Obi-Wan. I think it does make sense in some way, just because of the fact that Obi-Wan's voice was heard when she touched Luke's lightsaber.
Yeah, and it's calling to her.
And they made it a point to even bring Ewan McGregor back to do voiceover work for that scene. They reworked old audio recordings from Alec Guinness. So if you're going through that much effort, there's obviously a connection there, but I don't think it's going to be as simple as what people think it's going to be. It's going to be a little more complicated. It's going to be a little bit more story than just, she's Obi-Wan's nephew's cousin's former roommate. It makes so much sense. Reddit user 7750 said it long ago. I'm sorry, I don't trust anybody with the user handle of 777312. Use your real name, asshole. Anyway, so we shall see. I think Rey's story is going to be one of the most interesting things for leading into episode 8. They do have a lot of work to connect her story and also her origin story to Luke. As we know, this is a Skywalker storyline. The episodes, that's just what it is. You don't want to reinvent that or change that, because ultimately you would be doing a major disservice to Star Wars.
Yes.
So she has to have some connection to the Skywalkers. Will it be Obi-Wan? Will that change the story too much when the lead character is arguably Rey at this point? Or will it work having dual characters, much like we saw in the prequels, with Obi-Wan and Anakin working side by side? I mean, there is an argument to be made that Anakin would not have become what he was if it wasn't for Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Not to say Obi-Wan sucked or he's bad, but I'm saying, hey, you know what? Sometimes you can't control your child when you raise them. Doesn't mean every evil kid had a bad parent.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a connection there between Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan. There's a connection of destiny there. If they do that type of thing with this and keep Luke like they have been doing so far from episode 7 and leading to the things that we've heard that could come about in episode 8 and episode 9, Luke Skywalker's still the center point. He's still the foundation of the new trilogy. How they go about telling that story is a whole other thing. But how far do they veer off from Skywalker? How far should they veer off? Or will they? These are all questions that I have, and I think all the Star Wars elitists are also having those type of thoughts.
Absolutely.
Knowing that Skywalker is the foundation, where do we go from there? And what's the importance of Rey? And that's why it's really hard to speculate, because they can do anything with her character. You know, they could go various routes. They can go her being the true chosen one, a rebirth of Anakin some way.
Yeah.
Or they can go the route of simply her being related to Kenobi. I honestly feel like the Kenobi connection, though, is a little
It's
contrived.
growing on you?
No, I think it's contrived. I think it's too obvious. Don't you think it's a little too obvious?
I was thinking that myself. Is like, I used to actually think, okay, that would be a cool thing. But the more I thought about it, I'm like going, it's just too simple. It's too simple of an answer. Why would they go with that low-hanging fruit?
Yeah, I think they're going to go a little more complicated. Even though this is a mainstream movie, I think they are going to go a little more complicated than just simply she's related to Kenobi. I think it's what everyone expects. I think there's definitely a connection to Obi-Wan. As I was saying, we already know Obi-Wan and Anakin Skywalker's destiny is parallel. It's worked in tandem to get us to where we're at in terms of the Star Wars universe. So if they were to, again, do connections like that, I think it could work. But I think it's a lot more complicated than simply she's related.
She's related.
Oh, she's my niece.
Because here's the thing.
Treat her well, Luke.
Treat her well, Luke.
This is my niece.
Leave her on a desert planet to a slave trader. It's okay.
Oh. What you don't know, she's half Tusken Raider. I got bored on Tatooine, and I fucked a Tusken Raider.
But, like...
Don't take off your clothes, Ray, because that's where the genetics of the Tusken Raider is at. Your face looks human, but your body looks like a Tusken Raider. And a little bit of Jawa as well. Actually, you know what? I also got bored one time, during a Jawa festival. Maybe she's part Jawa. Honestly, Luke, I don't remember.
It was all a blur.
But if you take her pants down and she says "Pootee," she's probably a Jawa.
It was burning Jawa. I don't know what was going on.
Don't judge me, Luke. Don't judge me. I'm dead, and I'm talking to you through the Force Spirit, and I'm trying to help you out here. I don't know. I got bored. She might be part Krayt Dragon as well. Jesus, Obi-Wan, did you ever have sex with a human on Tatooine?
It was a very lonely thing. I got tired of sand.
Jesus. All right, we need to wrap this discussion before we jump the shark. I want to thank everybody for listening, and please leave us a review on Stitcher and iTunes, and you can also find us on Stitcher and iTunes if you did not know that. Also, we started something new this past month. We are now doing Patreon exclusive shows for those of you that want to get more Back to Tank and listen to us discuss and theorize on the potential and the future of Star Wars, where we delve into the Star Wars EU installments, whether it be a book or a comic book. We actually started this month off with our discussions based on the Screaming Citadel Star Wars Marvel crossover. If you have not read those issues, pick them up. Subscribe. $5 a month gets you anywhere between 1 to 3 additional Star Wars broadcasts a month. I think this month we're going to have like 3 or 4.
Yeah, it's a gothic horror Star Wars story.
Yeah, so definitely head over to patreon.com/RainmanDigital and subscribe to our additional discussions. Help us out. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, David.
Thank you. May the Force be with us.
Hello, this is Stormtrooper 1, and if you've missed any portion of the show, you can always head over to FromTheBactaTank.com and listen to the show at your leisure. We're also on Stitcher, Smart Radio, Stitcher.com, search Bacta, and add us to your favorites. Thank you, and listen responsibly. And may the Force be with you. And long live. Thank you for listening to From the Back to Tank. And From the Back to Tank is executive produced by Michael Flores and Dustin Lucas. Hosted by Michael Flores, David Zabal. You can find out more about our show by going to www.FromTheBactaTank.com. You can also find us on Twitter at FromBactaTank, as well as Facebook, facebook.com/FromTheBactaTank.